Welcome back to another another movie review of The Purge. Um, this one was the first Purge, so we kind of go back to the very beginning, how it all started, how the NFFA
Yes.
got thanks to got got into office, and why they started doing the Purge and all of that, and the real reasons behind it.
I think that was brilliant to have a movie setting up. They didn't just do the first purge, like in the sense like the first annual purge. They did the experiment that
Mm.
would be used to justify doing the annual purge, which I thought was brilliant. And they like had like scenes that looked at like the doctors and psychologists and sociologists and politicians who were conducting the experiment and how they kind of just forced the residents of Staten Island, New York, to participate in the purge and see what the outcome was. And they even paid them money, which I thought was a
Yeah.
very interesting twist because they go into a low. I think they did that on purpose. They go into a. They talk about how they go into a lower socioeconomic class, like neighborhoods,
Yeah.
and offer them $5,000 incentive just to stay.
Yeah, just stay at home basically, and they'll put a tracker in them and make sure that they're staying home. But they say like you will get more money if you actually participate, which is code word for killing other people.
Which I wish they actually elaborated more on what the award was per person you killed or crime you committed during the purge.
I was
The
kind of
monetary amount.
yeah, I was kind of fine without that just because it's like we get what they're going for. They want to be like they want to essentially skew the results to make it a success. Because if they didn't offer the incentive, a lot of people would have just left,
Oh
which would
yeah,
have been the actual like that would have been actually what the experiment should have been, is just people on their own accord actually
yeah.
going and
This
not
experiment was, let's just say, not
up to standard.
yeah, up to scientific standards, even for a Hollywood movie.
Yeah, and it actually starts with this dude, and like I thought he was in prison at first, but it's not. It's this dude named Skeletor. Well, that's the nickname he's given because he looks like a skeleton.
Yeah, he's
Um,
pretty freaky. So
yeah, and he's just talking about how he wants to purge and like release all his hatred and like just get it out on people and everything. And he's actually the person that gets the first ever kill in the purge.
he's
Um,
the first purger
yeah,
in
exactly.
history. And they talk, and as Khalil mentioned, it wasn't prison. It was these psychology stations they had set up when
Yeah,
they interviewed people who were staying behind during the purge to put the tracker in them to get the $5,000.
yeah,
And basically, it was just like seeing what your mental status was. They were going to evaluate people before the first purge experiment was conducted
and
and
then
after the
after, yeah.
conclusion
Which
on
I
the
do
next
kind of
day.
wish we saw. I do kind of wish
Oh
we
yeah,
saw, because I was interested because I guess you could have guessed, but I was kind of interested in seeing that. But it's so this experiment takes place on Staten Island, and like Steven said, they target that because of its socioeconomic kind of impoverishment.
and
During
it's an
where this is
island.
set, yeah, and this movie set in 2017, so it like we've been
We
saying
dodged the
it's
bullet, folks. Repeat, we dodged the bullet.
but yeah, so you have a few main characters here. You have Naya, Isaiah, Dimitri, or D is what people call him. Uh, Naya is kind of like the original anti-purge advocate.
Oh yeah, she's out there
Um,
protesting. People
yeah,
signing up to put the trackers in them to get the
yeah,
$5,000 reward.
and then it's kind of interesting because D almost turns into, um, he starts using like so he's a gangster. He in the specific area of Staten Island, he's basically runs everything.
Yeah,
And him and Naya used to date. It sounded like,
yeah.
and
Past
he
flame.
yeah, and he helped bring up Isaiah, who's Naya's brother, and essentially, it almost like obviously it was obvious he cared for her, and like she, I don't know, like they had some sort of obvious relationship there, like we just talked about. But with him, it was very interesting because it's like he was essentially uh, it almost seemed like doing it like obviously he cared about his money, his power and
Yeah, he
everything.
uses the purge to like move money around from one place to another on the island
Well, kind of,
and to
yeah,
protect it.
yeah. Well, because he basically just during the purge, he's like, "This is stupid," and then I'm just gonna. He just basically secured his money and
Yeah.
drugs and weapons and everything. And then later he turns into a hero basically because him and his crew go around and just wipe out these people that the government sends in to kill. And we
To
can talk
skew the
about that
results of the experiment.
because in Purge election year, or it's either Purge election year or Purge anarchy. It's Purge anarchy because they talk about how the government is being sent in to kill people because there wasn't enough citizen involvement.
Yeah, and
And
they
so,
want to drum up the results of the purge and
yeah,
make it more of a success. So basically, as Khalil was saying, when they realize that in Staten Island it's only a couple of like handfuls of people going around, and even just most of
yeah,
them are robbing or like looting or like committing like acts of
like the
public
streets are empty
destruction.
basically.
Yeah, no one's really killing except for Skeletor.
Yeah,
But so the government sends in people. There's this doctor named Dr. Updale. She created the whole experiment and
yeah,
she backs it, but she doesn't back the there's this one government official who's from the NFFA who then sends in people of different mercenaries from different countries or different extremist groups within the United States to work together to start just massacring the masses of people in
yeah,
Staten Island who had a tracker put in them for their involvement in their monetary reward at the conclusion of the experiment.
yeah. So it's the chief of staff for the president. His name's Arlo Sabian. I don't know. It's Arlo Sabian. And he's the one that you're talking about, Stephen, where he kind of decides it's like basically my whole career relies on this.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he would have been killed.
Oh yeah, 100%. And so he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna send these mercenaries out to go and start killing
Yeah,
people and wiping out apartment
and that's
buildings and
when
everything.
Dimitri
Yeah,
decides to fight back with his crew, but the government being the government in this scenario, they use drones and kill all the people except
yeah,
for Dimitri. And so then it's basically at the end him in a free for all fight against these ex-military or militia
people.
groups or
Yeah,
people extremists from even whether they're domestic or international, and he fights to save Naya and Isaiah, which
yeah.
is pretty
Basically, their
interesting.
family and everything. Yeah, and then just stats real quick. So the budget for election year, which was the one before this, was 10 mil, like we talked about. It grossed worldwide 100 and almost 119 million. This one it was 13 mil, so 3 mil more, and it grossed 137 million. So a good chunk more, there. So it's obviously they've continually been more successful and gotten higher budgets because of it, at least money wise. It's kind of funny because this one came out on July 4th, uh, so it kind of shows you where everyone's at. But um, it's pretty interesting, like the whole concept of the movie and the actual story that we follow. Because I think unlike previous stories, this one really does centralize around Naya, Isaiah, and
It follows
D.
everyday people again once in the purge, but it's not necessarily just the annual purge again. It's like these people being experimented on like human lab rats,
Yeah,
and it's kind of freaky to think that the government, they're like, oh, they voted for it, but I'm like, yeah, but like with everything else the NFFA does, which is obviously a corrupt power regime. You really think they voted for it, or was it like maybe one person like Skeletor voted for it,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
exactly.
the rest of the population living on Staten Island, New York, voted against it, and they're like, you know what? Well, no one can get off an island,
Yeah, so
so
we're just gonna do it. Screw it.
yeah,
But that's why. Yeah, and it really does kind of show that their beginning and like their instant corruption because they're not like they're like basically a third party that was formed
oh
essentially
yeah,
and rose to power somehow. And it actually talked about the subprime mortgage crisis, so obviously like '08 and '09 and everything. But yeah, I think it is for me. I was able to follow it. I think I was able to understand what was going on more. So like I was able to understand the other ones, but this one was more concrete. And like we are following Naya, we are following Isaiah, we are following D. Like these are the people we were following, and like they basically were all
and it
together
sets up the
for the most
whole
part.
other movies. Like yeah, the first
Yeah,
when I say this,
you
I
can
mean the Purge,
understand.
the
Yeah,
first movie in the Purge series. They again only follow the one family,
yeah,
and again it starts to just
true,
introduce
true.
you to the lore, And again, I think all the movies are needed, but I think this movie gives us the beginning of the story of the Purge and how
Yeah.
it deals with, as a reference in the first movie in the series, about how Americans were so desperate that this third party out of nowhere just was created, and then they're a bunch of crazy, pretty much racist people.
Yeah, there's people wearing Klan hoods and everything, kind of
Yeah,
driving
they're
around.
they're fully blown except for at press conferences.
Yeah, and I do like, because I remember in our first review of this, I was saying like no sane person would actually go out and do this stuff, and I do like how it was like I was somewhat proven right in this, where it's like regular people weren't going out, like it was a crazy dude, and then they had to send militias to go and actually do it,
Yeah,
which
but
is
would
like
you
makes
argue that the
sense.
militias, I know they're doing it for a cash payment or whatever
Yeah,
else of payment, but I think that what it also showed was, I think that with having the militias go out and stir violence, they people watching it around the world and around the country don't know that's a militia group. They just know that
yeah,
people are killing each other. So I think maybe that gives them the sense that, hey, wait, look, when if this is ever enact
acknowledged.
no,
Oh no. Oh,
enacted in the
enacted.
law,
Got you.
that we can go do it because like the people at Staten Island did it, and
Well,
now it's law passed by our
I
government.
think it's more than just the people at Staten Island did. I think it's the dude, the like people in power, the NFFA, saying like the people in Staten Island did it, and it worked.
Yeah,
Where it's like if they were just going around killing people and there was no like economic benefit and like any of this, but it's kind of funny because the reason there's economic benefit is because they gave ordinary people money, like who
yeah, and they
survived.
talk about how the government's in debt, but you know what I thought was very like,
Mm.
I just didn't understand the fact that, like, I feel like a lot of people couldn't have left that neighborhood just because they are broke. Like they
Yeah,
talk about, that's why they specifically, especially they talk about Park Hill Towers, which is like
the
the main
epicenter.
pillar
Yeah,
of the community that they're trying to target, which they go through and demolish the apartments, and that's where Dimitri becomes a hero and saves Naya and Isaiah and the other
yeah, yeah.
few in the church. But it's funny because, like, would they have stayed? Most likely because of the fact they couldn't afford to leave Staten Island. Because again, most people, I know Staten Island's a tucked away. I don't know if we're gonna consider it a borough. We don't want to anger
Yeah, I don't
our
know if it
New
counts
York
as.
City, but I mean,
Yeah,
like, would they have? No one really owns a car because of transit, public transits. I mean,
yeah, yeah. I
different.
see. I see what you're saying.
Would they have been able to leave again? Because most of the stuff goes over on a bridge, and the trains would have been crowded. And I don't think there's an
Yeah.
airport in Staten Island. If I'm wrong, Staten Island viewers,
Please correct us.
please correct us in the comment section.
Yeah,
But
but
I don't think people would have left, and I think that the cash thing was bogus. And I really would have liked to known if the people were paid out just the initial 5,000, and if they were paid out more if they killed people or committed serious crimes.
so on that point, I do think they were, specifically because obviously what happened is that this purge happened, and then you saw an influx in the income of these people. So
Yeah,
like
but
that's
that's
how they
only because
justified it.
yeah, that's what I think is really
But
bogus
but
because
because they actually paid them out, I think, and so you're like, oh, okay, they have this money now, and you're spending. It's like, oh, all of a sudden there's economic spending in this area. Maybe it's because you gave the people that survived $5,000.
or like I think that's
Like,
bogus that like I think that economists in this lore fiction couldn't be like, hey, there's only an economic uptick because of the fact that they committed this. There wouldn't have been if you had
yeah,
done this with maybe no monetary, you know,
yeah,
incentive. I'm sure some people like Skeletor, even less crazier people would have gone out and looted or
yeah,
killed,
yeah,
maybe not necessarily on purpose, but I think that it would have been shown that, hey, like, this is just a hoax, and that the real agenda of the new founding fathers of America is to, one, get rid of poverty, and stop, having a dependent class, and, wipe out. Obviously, they don't like the poor. They're very, very, pretty much full blown racist, but not when asked in press conferences,
yeah.
and they just trying to like
Well,
wipe
they're
out certain
very
segments of the population to quote unquote increase reborn, make America reborn, which I think also
yeah.
has some racial undertones to it.
Well, I think this movie, and I know I say this basically every review, but it keeps happening. I think this movie, more so than the others, and you can clearly see it, has a lot of racial just tones to it. I don't
Oh
even
yeah,
think
because
they're I
look at
don't
the
even think they're
neighborhood.
subtones anymore. I think they're legitimately just tones.
Well, not on, like obviously when they go out on TV, it's not, but like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I mean,
When they go out on TV, it's clearly yeah, yeah. I see what
but
you're
like
saying.
when you see like again, most of the villains have, except with the exception of the first movie, but even though they still were, I'm sure, racially insensitive, like in Purge Anarchy, the dude's a neo-Nazi
Yeah, yeah.
or has ties to white supremacy. The other guy,
In election years, legitimately,
he's got a swastika on him,
yeah,
so there obviously is racial
yeah.
stigmas, not
Throughout the thing.
stigmas, but racial like grievances that the new founding fathers have, and they have definitely some messed up ideological
Yeah,
differences.
and just the people they decide to surround themselves with, which
Oh
again
yeah,
goes to their ideology. But I yeah, I don't really know what to think about this movie because I have certain gripes with it, and I'll go pretty quick through them. It's really just a couple things. Mainly, it's like so. There's a scene once they actually get back to the apartment where they show blood on the floor. This is like really my only thing where I was like, "What's
oh
happening?"
yeah,
Yeah, and so they show blood on the floor, and you think it's Skeletor that's like waiting in one of the rooms and gonna jump out and kill one of them or kill them all or whatever it is, right? But it ends up being nothing. Like it ends up her she does explain it away, and you think it's kind of like she's forgetting, but no, she's right.
I
Like
really wish Skeletor. This is what I wish had happened. Skeletor had hidden in there because he knows where they probably live.
yeah,
He kills one of
he
them.
knows those people.
Not like obviously Naya or Isaiah or the little girl, but he kills one of them, and then the whole like militia group shows up, and then he helps them fight back.
I don't know if he would help them fight back, but that I mean that is what basically ends up happening is like he inadvertently helps them because he kills the
He
people
kind of
with the
distracts
bazookas.
them, kills one or two
Yeah,
soldiers.
and then that allows Dee to kind of blow them up,
Yeah,
basically.
and also just Dimitri, that dude is jacked. Okay,
Oh yeah, yeah. We were talking. Let
and
me
he's this
actually.
freaking skilled guy who like literally
His
takes down
name's
everyone.
yeah. His name's the actor's name is Yalen Knoll, and we were actually saying like this dude's insane. Like and just that's another thing I think with this movie. The acting I really like again. Like
Again,
and these are I don't recognize these names. I'm looking at the cast list now. I really don't recognize these
that's what I
names.
kind of liked about all the Purge movies, with the exception of the Frank Grillo. We know that he plays
Yeah, yeah,
Crossbones, and we know that he's in the show Kingdom. At least I do. But like,
yeah. He's a known
yeah,
actor.
I like that they find these like maybe they're not as known on the big screen or like
Yeah,
nationally
on the big
wise,
screen. Yeah.
and I do like that they do put these types of actors in because
Because it's good.
it
I mean, they
makes
make
it
good
lets it
content.
helps people be discovered. Like
True.
again, this guy who plays Dimitri is just an amazing actor, and he's also physically just freaking jacked as
Definitely see him
hell.
as a Marvel character in the future. But and even the people like who played Naya is Lex Scott Davis, and you have
Again,
just a
they're
lot of
all
good
great actors.
actresses
Even
and
the guy
actors
who
in
plays
here.
Skeletor.
Yeah,
I mean,
he plays that really
as
well.
creepy as he is, there's
That's his
always
job.
actors who
Yeah,
can play villains the best, and I just think that even
Timmy
like
Paul.
I just think they were all really well executed. Even like the bad Sabian guy who worked for the NFFA.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I mean, he's a scumbag, but I mean, the actor did a really great job portraying him as that. Or even the doctor who realizes that what the NFFA is doing by sending in
which I
the
thought that she
militia.
was kind of BSing that she wasn't politically motivated, but it was true. Like she actually
She
wasn't.
really just was like one of those
She thought it
sociologists,
would work
psychologists
somehow.
that would somehow, if the experiment was not tampered with by outside forces, that, you know, would have succeeded in proving her theory that the purge will work to bring down crime or
Yeah,
poverty or
which it
economic distress. But I also don't understand how she wanted an untapped, undisturbed experiment, but still offered people incentive to
yeah
stay.
exactly. That's why I'm like
That's like,
okay.
is this really a true, even without the militia involvement from the NFFA to drum up violence, do you really think that this is a uninterrupted
Yeah,
or
it's like
true, pure
you've put a
like science
variable in now.
experiment?
Like, yeah, exactly. It's like you kind of threw off your own
You would have
experiment.
to almost run it in multiple places, which would be horrible to try
Yeah,
it to see. Wait, I mean, like again, they only did it based off of one study, which I think is also bogus. But again,
yeah,
she
yeah.
gets killed. Dr. Updale gets killed because she realizes this, and they throw her in the purge. And I personally think the people who killed her recognized her from, TV coverage and
No,
how.
I think that was an assassination. I think
Oh,
Arlo like sent her there and just acted like she got double tapped on the actual purge.
no, but I thought she just threw him out into the purge because the van drops her off. They could have just killed her in the
But
van.
it's legitimately like instantly she gets killed. Like they're waiting for her.
Or do you think they
Like
found? I think they just found a group of people. That's what
it
I
could
like to
be.
think.
It could be either way they kill her to cover it up. This and so what do you think this one what do you think of this movie ratings wise comparatively to the
Ooh.
like where would you rank it we should do compared to the other ones? Like is this now your new top? Is this your bottom? Where is
I
this?
feel like every time, except for like obviously the first purge. I mean, like the first purge in the movie series. I still give that one the lowest ranking, but it does also is a great
Same.
setup.
Yeah. We're
Again,
in
like we've
agreement
talked about
on
that.
that. Yeah.
I mean, all the Purge movies are needed to explain the lore, and I like how they don't just go out telling you like if they had started with just the first Purge, it keeps you guessing and wanting more.
Yeah.
Because I mean, again, the concept you could just Google it. People can do whatever they want for 12 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
But they don't really reveal it all the lore behind it, which I felt was is lore there even the right word?
Yeah, no, you're using the right word.
Okay, because
Yeah.
you started using it recently.
No, that's an actual word.
Okay, no, but I just think it's amazing how they do storytelling, and the guys and girls who wrote this movie are
It's actually the same people.
freaking geniuses on intriguing people. I mean, like they're making a fifth movie with a low budget again, and they're gonna probably rake in a ton of money. Also, just due to the fact that no one's been able to go to movie theaters for I don't know
Ever.
how long. I think it was
Forever.
14 months, and
Yeah.
we live in California. But like, even, I'm sure nationwide in most places they couldn't go there for about over a year. So, I think they're gonna get a ton of people who have lockdown fatigue go watch the movies. So,
Yeah, definitely. That's
or
what
bootleg it.
either one. But yeah, it's the same dude. James DeMonico has been writing all of them. I'm so conflicted on this because
Do you
I
think
honestly
he came up with the idea, and do you think people were like, "Dude, that's fucked"? I mean,
oh no
bad
I
that
mean
you-
this is an idea that's I'm like anarchy in the streets isn't like a new idea I feel
yeah,
like
but like government sanctioned anarchy.
oh maybe he
On a
might have.
large scale, not just like, hey, like if you go back to the gladiators, like, all right, you killed it, you two are gonna, or three or four are gonna be thrown into here,
And just kill each other
or
basically.
like with
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd love to sit down and talk with him because he has a very interesting mind. It seems like.
yes,
But
he's creepy, but I mean, like there are
his
creepy
ideas
elements.
are creepy. Yeah.
This was probably the scariest movie in the sense of
This-
a true horror movie
Yeah,
with
I agree
Skeletor
with
being
that.
creepy and running around and stabbing
Even
people.
without Skeletor, for some reason, like
the lenses.
the lenses that they use, the setting, the actual like sewer setting that they use for some of it when he goes into that house and they're in the sewers.
Ooh,
Like,
that was pretty creepy.
like this is a proper compared to the other ones. This is a proper horror movie. I did start kind of not laughing, but I kind of was like, okay, this is interesting. Towards the end of it, when they were like, because it stopped being scary and it started being more action, like we've seen them all kind of do.
Yeah, which again I thought was a good enough. I thought this movie was probably the best, but I think they're
Yeah.
all pretty good in the sense they tell the
don't know
story
where-
of the
I don't-
Purge
I don't
and
know where
the
I stand
social
on this one.
experiment that they try in America. But I
Yeah.
am excited to see the Forever Purge just because in the Google description they talk about how the Purge was outlawed.
Yeah. So we'll review that when it comes up. But this one I really don't know where I stand
So
on
what's
it.
your ranking standalone?
I don't-
Nothing about the other ones.
Oh, not thinking about the other. Bro, I really don't know.
You know what? Think about the other ones, but you can't change the rankings of what
Sure,
you've already said.
yeah. Because for me, it's either I can't. I'm switching it between my top one and my second one because I do enjoy the Anarchy quite a bit as my top one right now, and Election Year is a really close one. I think they could have done a few different things in that.
Election year
but
sets
with-
up the future
Yeah,
of the Purge and how it's gonna go.
and then with this one, I don't know, man. I think it might be my top just because I honestly think that this is. I think I
The
agree with
beginning
you.
of the
I
craziness.
I agree with you that I think the Purge was needed to set this all up, and I don't know. I don't think if this movie came out as the first Purge, like chronologically as they released
Yeah,
them,
'cause you would
that
be
because
hooked.
one, it wouldn't have the big budget. It would have a $3 million budget, so they couldn't do all these things. Two, it also wouldn't hook you as much because it's like, okay, this happened, okay, whatever. So I don't know. It's very tough for me because I want to say it's number one because it could stand alone, but at the same time I don't think it could. So I'm very conflicted on this one, and I guess we'll talk about it more on our final review with the Forever Purge, and I'll give you guys my official ranking charts. We both will in that one. But yeah.
I'm gonna give it 8.5 out of 10.
Okay.
I
So
thought
it's
the
getting up
acting
there.
was amazing. Again, I think
Yeah.
after watching all the other purges,
I like the story of this one better, I will
yeah, because
say.
I mean, it sets it all up. You're all like, wow, this is how it started. These are the people who became. You already knew they came to power, but like, this was their rationale. It showed like their quote unquote government officials.
You know what? I actually will agree with you now thinking about it a bit because I think it's number one on the rankings because of the three movies that came before it.
Yes.
So I think that's why for me thinking about it a bit more, which I know it's only been 2 minutes, but it is number one.
Yeah, definitely is. I think the Forever Purge. Hopefully, I don't know.
Hopefully we keep hopefully that is the next best one. Hopefully it is.
Or do you
But
think
we'll see.
after? Okay, realistically, just
Yeah.
before we end this,
Yeah.
do you think the Forever Purge is the last one?
Yes. Oh yeah. I definitely think that. I have not looked. I have not Googled or anything like that. But it just has to be,
After
right?
almost 8 years of purging.
I mean, it has to be, bro. I don't know. To me, it makes sense. Even the title,
I
it's
don't
the
know.
Forever
Fast and
Purge.
Furious 9
I mean, there's a
just
10th
came
one.
out,
Yeah.
or
But Fast and
whatever.
Furious announced that they're making it 10th. But this one, I feel like it's a good place to end it. You've made 5 solid movies. They've been relatively successful. I
That
haven't
people
looked up
will
the
talk
numbers.
about.
Yeah,
You'll
exactly.
talk about the purge.
People
You'll
know what
make
the Purge
jokes.
is. People
You'll
might
make
not have
jokes.
watched it, but they
You'll
know what
be
it
all
is.
like, "Oh my God, this isn't the purge." Like, you will hear jokes. You'll hear references, and if people have seen, most likely they've seen the first one or
Yeah.
Election Year. I
I
think are
yeah,
the two most popular viewed ones, or they saw
probably.
this one.
So, yeah, no, I think it's the last one. We'll have to see because after we watch it, I'll actually look up the stats and everything for it and see if it is the last one. But I think it will be. So we will.
Well, I think that this movie was great. Great actors, great storyline, great revealing of the original part of the purge, and just overall great. And it really does show you how messed up, like how low, like some leaders, I say quote air quoting here, leaders will do to quote help the country, get out of such dire straits. But
Yeah.
again, there's so many motivations that they have that are so corrupt and wrong. But again,
Yeah, and I
it's
think
just a dystopian future that's more realistic compared to zombie apocalypse. Like this.
no, yeah, this is something where I don't know if it could legitimately happen, but because there's no fantastical elements to it like zombies are and that type of
Or
stuff, which
aliens or stuff like that.
traditional kind of horror type stuff with like psychological thrillers like in Jason or Chucky or these type of things, where it's like this one is like just people
This
at
is
the
the most
at the brink
realistic.
of at the brink of losing humanity. What do they do? And this is what they do.
And I think that again, that's what's the most scary. Like obviously there's jump scares,
Some, yeah,
but
yeah.
at the end of the day, you're not thinking about the jump scares. You're thinking, wow, wait, what if this actually happened?
It's like
'Cause
people,
it's the most
yeah,
realistic.
exactly, because it's like people can actually get to this point,
Yeah,
at least in
because
the
they're all
in the
everyday
sphere.
citizens until
Until the
March
purge.
21st at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
until March 22nd at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
When the first siren goes on and the message goes out and the siren at the end goes on.
All I'm gonna say is that we need Purge Day as a national holiday. Have a good one, guys.
Nope.